तरंगे ॐ पूर्णमद पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्ति.
Let's begin Satsang with a short meditation together. So just allow your eyes to close. Allow your body to find a position in which it's straight but not rigid. Let the back be naturally straight. And the breath should flow freely. Draw the awareness inward. Thoughts will come. Sounds and sensations from the outer world will come. And don't try to fight them off, but don't allow your awareness to get hooked into them. Just allow them to blow gently and quickly across your consciousness, like wispy clouds across a blue sky on a windy day. And keep the awareness on the breath. With each exhalation, allow yourself to let go. Let go of another mask that you wear. Let go of another role that you play. Let go of an identity, a personality, an aspect of your history that's defining you. As you exhale, just let them go. Breathe them out and realize they are not self. And as you breathe them out, allow yourself to sink deeper and deeper with each exhalation as you get freer and freer of that which is not self. Sink deeper and deeper into the core of your being, into that source of the self. Allow yourself to drop deeply. letting go more and more with each exhalation. Getting freer and freer. Sinking deeper and deeper into the core of the self. You can add also a gentle mantra if you find that the mind wanders. You can chant silently to yourself, so on the inhalations, and hum on the exhalations. So it means I am that. I am one with the universe. I am one with that to which I pray. I am one with that upon whom I meditate. I am that. So hum. Sinking deeper and deeper, freer and freer on each exhalation, dropping into the core of the being, beneath the rolls, beneath the masks, beneath the relationships and responsibilities. Sinking deeply into that source. Of light, of peace, of love. Gently bring the palms together at chest level in Namaste and rub the palms of your hands gently against each other. Place your cupped palms over your closed eyes. Open the eyes into the palms of your hands and gently lower the hands. So, as always, we'll begin with a question that came in advance. Today it was one that came as I was just turning to leave from the Arti before I started walking back up. There was a question of, so what is it that brought us here today? On this sacred day, is it just our karma? Is it Mother Ganga's blessings? What is it that brought us here today? And so I thought, well, we'll start with that. And then, as always, I'm happy to take any question that anyone here has. So, today, as this special day of Ganga Saptami, Ganga Jayanti, but also any day, what brings us where we are? Is it our karma? Is it our good luck? Is it this destiny, this predetermination thing? What is it? And the truth is, it's actually all of that. And it's grace. And so, when most of us think of predetermination, or we think of fruits of karma, most of us tend to think very far back. So if someone says to you, oh, this was predetermined, you're going to go back literally in your mind to prehistoric times, as though somehow in the Stone Age, this was written that you were going to be here. We've got this interesting idea of predetermination. If someone says, oh, this was your karma to be here, again, we go back to sometime 5 lifetimes ago when we think about, oh, it must be my karma to be here. But interestingly, although karma, of course, includes all of our past lives, it also includes recent history. And in fact, the most recent stuff actually has the most impact and the most power. The longer history stuff is what gives us a lot of the likelihoods. So for example, due to a long-term history of this life, perhaps even past lives, what we call our sanskaras. All right, so that makes us the type of people who would show up for Ganga Arti, or the type of people who after Arti are going to come into Satsang. It's a personality trait, it's a sanskara, it's a priority, it's who you are is what's going to make you decide, oh, let's go for Arti, rather than, oh, let's go to the bar. Let's go, out dancing, maybe I can, pick up some chicks. Like, that's a totally different type of personality, totally different type of impressions, values, ethics, everything. That's the longer term past, the pre-determination. But even stronger than that is actually our free will in the moment. If you think back over your life, you'll think of a lot of times in which you've made a decision in the moment to do something that is not at all like you. You'll say, I don't know why I decided to do that. Well, though that was not like me at all. Sometimes it's what you would consider a bad decision. So you did something that was not like you at all, and later you really regret it. I don't know how that happened to me. Bhoot aa gaya, like some just ghost came out of the blue and kind of overtook me, and I did this thing. But sometimes it happens the other way. Maybe you've got the sanskaras, the values, the ethics, the priorities that are not at all the spiritual ones. That you're the type of person much more likely to say, let's go get drunk in a bar. But somehow you make that decision. You exercise your free will. The thought comes to you. And instead of overruling it and saying, "Are nahi," you actually listen and you go with it. So that free will that we use in every moment is actually the strongest determinant of where we're going to be. And so what brings us all here today? Well, yeah, the past, the pre-past that has given us the karmic package to be the type of people to show up at an arati, the type of people to find ourselves in Rishikesh on the banks of Ganga, the type of people following arati to come into satsang. But it also requires immediate use of your free will. And so in a lot of cases, the of predetermined is literally just that which I decided 2 minutes ago. Walking down the pathway, I see a sign that says Cyber Cafe. One voice in my head says, Facebook. Haven't been on Facebook since morning. Let me go in the Cyber Cafe and check my Facebook. And at the same time, I hear the bell of the arati. And I hear some people saying, as they walk by me, we're going for the arati. And some other voice inside my head says, arati. And in that moment, I use my free will to say, I'm going to go with the internet rather than the internet at this moment. I'm going to go for arati. And that is the predetermined of the fact that you were in arati, because 5 minutes before arati, you were able to use your buddhi, use your power of discrimination, open your heart to say, maybe you don't even know what arati is. Maybe you come from a different culture, a different country, a different religion. You have no idea what everybody's moving toward. But something in you says, Facebook can wait. I'm gonna follow this stream. River's running this way. That's the of predetermined. And so that's where it's so important. A lot of us tend to just abdicate all responsibility for our lives to that which must have happened thousands of years ago. Well, anyway, there's nothing I can do about it. It must just be my karma. And this is really it's an abdication of responsibility. It's a refusal to step up to the plate of your life and say, wait, I have a choice. Yes, I realize that these things happened to me in the past. Yes, I realize that the stock market crashed and that happened. I realize that my, former roommate or spouse or father-in-law or brother, whoever it may be, beat me horribly. And I realize that. Or I realize that this happened or that happened or whatever it may be in our lives. And I realize that the present moment is in my hands. I cannot rewind history. I cannot go back and make any of those things not happen. But I have in this moment full control and full choice. And it's not easy. Because of that pre stuff, I'm very likely to make a certain decision. If I'm someone who has spent every night of the last 5 years in a bar drinking myself into oblivion in order not to have to face the problems of my life, I'm much more likely to spend tonight also in a bar drinking myself into oblivion than I am to spend it in the arti. But every night I've got that choice that says, am I going to go with just what I am predisposed to doing because it's what I've been doing? Because it's the reaction to the pain I feel or the boredom I feel or the habit I've developed? Or am I going to use my free will in this moment and choose an alternative? There is always an alternative. I don't care how many nights you've spent in a bar. I don't care how many nights you have made what to you is the wrong decision in any one of 1,000 different decisions. Every moment, you have the power to make a different decision. Every single time your child fails an exam, you hit him. Well, this time when he failed the exam, you have a choice. You have free will to decide, well, that hasn't gone so well in the past. All that does is make me feel miserable, make my wife not talk to me for a week, make me embarrassed in front of my friends the time that they walked in accidentally and saw me hitting my kid, makes my child cry and slink away to his room and not eat and be miserable. I know it's wrong, but it's just what I do. It's what my father did to me. It's what everybody I know grew up with. This is just how things are. Well, that's not an excuse. Every day, every minute, you have the ability to use your free will, whatever your karmic package may be, whatever has been done to you for however many lifetimes, whatever you have done for however many lifetimes. Every moment is new. And yeah, it's not always easy. Sometimes it feels like pulling yourself up out of quicksand. But that's what free will is for. And that's what our spiritual practice gives us the strength to do. I mean, the spiritual practice literally is that rope that we're able to cling onto to pull ourselves out of quicksand. That here's how I've always acted. Here's how I've always reacted. Here's everything I know. Here's the habit I've developed. And here's the rope of my spiritual connection that's going to pull me out of that quicksand and into an entirely new way of thinking, of choosing, of living. And this is how new karma is made. So the fruits of our past karma is what bring us here. But what you're doing now is creating your fruits for the future. So this is today, this right now, is the pre of where you're going to be tomorrow, next week, next year. You are writing your own destiny right now. And so the question becomes, how are you writing it? What are you writing in it? Because there's going to be a time in the future that you're going to say, God, I wonder how I got here. Well, that's because what you're writing right now. And so on this beautiful day, when we worship and honor and celebrate the giver of freedom, Ganga, the one to whom we go to free us from whether it's the sins of the past, whether it's the karma of the past. Let's use this beautiful opportunity to be free. It's not just about what's Ganga going to do for me. It's about what am I going to do touched and inspired by Ganga. Because you have that power. You've been so blessed to be here. You've got that power to make a new fresh beginning. And it's such an auspicious day to do it. I mean, every day is an auspicious day. Puja Swamiji always says, whenever you wake up, it's morning. But when you find yourself on the banks of Ganga on an auspicious day like this, we consider it an extra blessing. So before taking any of the other questions that came in advance, I'm happy to open it up to any questions that are here. Yes?
Sadhvi, why has God created senses? Just to make us deprive those senses of the objects where they find pleasure?
Okay, great. So we speak a lot about gaining control over the senses, of not giving in to the senses. And so as he says, why did God create the senses? Just so that we could learn to deprive ourselves of them? Of course not. In my experience of God, in my belief of God, in my knowledge of God, there's nothing that God does just to torture us. There's nothing that God does just to make us miserable. There's nothing that God does just to give us a hard time. The senses are our way of interacting with this divine creation. And so God has created roses that smell so beautiful. But if we didn't have a sense of smell, we could not enjoy them. God has created sunrises and sunsets that are so beautiful. But if we had no eyes, we could not see them. God has created sound. But if we had no ears, we couldn't hear it. Right? So the senses are our way of interacting with the creation. And I deeply believe that we are absolutely supposed to use them. Think about it for a minute. If you create something for someone you love, and you create something that you make a painting, let's say, something that is visual, and you give it to someone, would you want them to refuse to look at it? You hand them this beautiful painting you've made, and they say, oh, I'm sure it's really beautiful. Would you put it in my closet, please? You'd be like, Hari, kya hua? What do you mean? Come on, at least look at it. I painted it for you. At least have a look. Like, your heart would break if they refused to look at it. If you wrote a poem for them, you wrote a song for them, and you say, okay, Cello, listen, I'm gonna sing it for you. And they put their fingers in their ears and they say, yeah, in the other room. You go to the other room. Blah, 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 blah. Can you think, my God? You'd be so hurt. So while I don't think that God's feelings get hurt the way that our feelings would get hurt, I certainly believe that in the same way that when we create something and we gift it, that we want the people we've gifted it to enjoy it, that in the same way that when God has created this incredible creation with such beauty, it defies every aspect of my awareness and experience and knowledge of God, that God would have created this beauty and then said, but not for you. Do whatever you can do not to look, not to smell, not to touch, not to taste. I mean, can you imagine? It makes no sense. So therefore the question becomes then, okay, so we have these senses, we have this incredible creation. What's the teaching? teaching then? What's the problem with the senses? Why are we always taught to control the senses, restrain the senses? Well, because God has given us our senses to know and enjoy the universe, not to become the masters of our lives. The problem is, instead of using my eyes and my nose and my touch and all of my senses to simply interact with this divine creation and to see the divine in the creation, I've become a slave to them. I've become an absolute slave to my senses. My nose says, that smells good. Ah, yeah. Chocolate chip cookies. Yeah, give me some. And the doctors just told me I have diabetes and high blood pressure and I'm supremely obese and that I'm supposed to avoid sweets, but my nose goes, yeah. I've become a slave. That's not what our senses have been given to us for. And so the spiritual teaching is, recognize that you are not your senses. It doesn't mean don't use them. It simply means recognize that you are the master. They are a tool in your hand. So you're building a house. You get a hammer. Hammer is a great tool. It'll help you build your house. But the hammer is a tool in your hands, not vice versa. If the hammer says to you, now we're going to go bash in the head of your wife or child, the hammer becomes a problem. When the hammer is helping you build your house, the hammer is a great tool. When the hammer leads the way and you follow and it starts bashing in people's heads, this is a weapon of destruction. Destruction of them, destruction of you. Your life is over, now you're thrown in jail. Some countries you're hanged. Over. The hammer has destroyed you. Where you got it to be a tool to build your house, now it has destroyed you. It's not the hammer's fault. It's that you decided to become a slave to this thing that only knows how to bash things in. In the same way, the spiritual teaching is, use your senses as tools. So when I stand up to walk out of this room, I need to be able to use my eyes to know where this table is so I don't trip over it. If I decide I'm not going to use my senses, I'm going to close my eyes, well, pretty soon I'm going to trip over it and crack my head open. But when my eyes say, oh, that looks good. Ooh, I wish I had that. Why does that one get that? That's not fair. I hate that. That's ugly. That's bad. Well, that's me becoming a slave to my eyes. And so the spiritual teaching teaches us how to remember that we are in charge. This is why, if you think about so many of the practices that we do, to restrain the senses, it's not because they're bad. It's just to remind us who's in charge. So when we fast, for example, it's not that food is bad. It's not that eating is bad. You're going to start eating again. It's just to remind you, my tongue wants it, my stomach wants it, but it's my fast. I'm not going to have it. And what that does is much more than just the benefit of a day fast. It actually trains the brain to understand I am not a slave to what my nose wants, my tongue wants, my eyes want. Look at this, my stomach is growling. I want food, but it's my fast, I'm not eating. And I'm still here. I haven't dissolved into space. I haven't exploded or imploded or all the things that we think are going to happen if I don't give in to my senses immediately. Right? We think, oh, I have to have it right now or I'm going to die. Restraining the senses temporarily teaches us you won't die. And so we fast. We stay awake all night, for example. Shivaratri, Janmashtami. Certain nights we choose, we stay awake. Why? Not because sleep is bad. Not because the sense of fatigue is our enemy and we have to suppress it and not give our bodies the rest that they need. But to remind us, I'm not a slave to it. So whether it's hunger for food or hunger for anything else, that fasting reminds us, I am in charge. So the senses are not things that we're supposed to lock up and throw away. The senses are simply things that we need to remember, I am in charge. You are a tool in my hand. Not I am a tool in your hands. Any other questions? Yes, we'll take this as the last question tonight.
What, in your opinion, is the best way to cope up with the anxiety and depression?
Well, the best way to cope with anxiety and depression is to free yourself of anxiety and depression. I'm not a very strong proponent of learning to live with misery. The goal is always, how can I get free of the misery? What is it that's making me miserable? Now, sometimes it's a physical ailment or injury and you've just got to give it its time. Sometimes it's things like you've lost a loved one. Well, okay, you're gonna be really sad for an extended period of time. But most of the stuff is things that we've chosen in many ways. And I don't say that in a way to make people feel guilty, but to make you feel empowered. We've chosen to allow the status quo to continue. We've chosen to identify as the one who is anxious, as the one who is depressed, as the one who is addicted, as the one who hits my children, as the one who has no control over their senses. And I've sort of stepped away from the plate of my life and said, well, this is just who I am. The goal is not, how can I live, cope with being less than who I am. The goal is, how can I move through whatever obstacles I'm facing that keep me from being who I am. And so when we suffer from anxiety and depression, which by the way are not the same thing, we won't go into all of the differences of them here. Frequently you feel them together, but they're not the same thing by any means. But when we suffer from them, they are opportunities. They're opportunities to look at our lives and to say, what is it in my life that is causing me anxiety? What am I stressed about? What is it in my life that is causing me to be depressed? In some cases, it's chemical. We now know that both anxiety and depression have chemical correlates in our brain. In which cases, certain medical treatments are actually very helpful. And even from a spiritual perspective, I'm never against taking medicine, especially for a short period of time. If you had diabetes, you wouldn't feel like somehow you should be able to exert your willpower to get your pancreas to just do what it was supposed to do. You would understand that somewhere something was off and that you needed a little bit of assistance in balancing the insulin levels in your body. So in the same way, sometimes, definitely not always by any means, but sometimes, the depression can stem from or be deeply correlated with for a long enough period of time that it's sort of become a neural pattern with an imbalance in chemicals in our brain. And in many, many cases, medicine is very helpful to help us be able to move out of it enough that we can look at what put us into that situation to begin with. But these are opportunities. They're not life sentences. Do not take anxiety and depression as something like, well, okay, I guess I just can't sing. Or I guess I'm just not tall enough to be on the basketball team. I mean, there are certain things in life that we do have to just say, all right, this is kind of my karmic package. Not going to make the basketball team. Not going to be the one chosen to sing. Not going to be this, not going to be that. That's great to understand. This is who I am. This is not who I am. Otherwise we become miserable. We have these, crazy senses of I can become anything. And you can to an extent. Within reason. Within the specific karmic package that you've been given. But anxiety and depression, these are not things you need to just say, I will accept this for my life. How do I cope with it? This is an opportunity that you need to say, okay, here's what the universe has given me at this moment. How can I come out of this? They are not the enemy. They're part of how your karmic package is functioning chemically, electrically. It's going to have something to do with your experiences in life, your childhood. I mean, there's so much that comes into it. Your thoughts. But use them as opportunities for growth. I've got anxiety. I've got depression. Okay, let me go into them one by one. What is it I'm most anxious about? What is it that triggers the anxiety? And to take that really and dissect it. What am I deeply afraid of at the core? Look at the depression. What is this? Go within it. See it for what it is. Get help if you need help. There is nothing weak about admitting that you need help. It's actually very strong. To have the courage to admit, I need help, is very, very strong. To have the courage to seek out help is very strong. And there is help available for that. And so, in the meantime, we cope with it by learning what it has to teach us. By seeing the aspects of us that it shows us. And by using it as an opportunity to realize I am not that. So when the depression says to me, for example, you are worthless. You are stupid. I have the opportunity to say to that, and who are you? Who is that voice? And where did you come from? And why in the world have I spent the last 5 years or 15 years or 50 years thinking that you are boss? Who are you? Where did that voice come from? Because that's not you. And that's not God. And so someone other than your highest self or the divine has given you that inner voice that says that. See who that is. And the anxiety that says, oh my God, oh my God, this is going to happen, that's going to happen. Okay, look at that. What if it does happen? Okay, you fail the exam. Okay, you don't get the job. Okay, you get fired. Okay, the other guy gets the promotion. I mean, this is the stuff that most of us are anxious about. It's really tragic because our whole stress response, the whole sympathetic nervous system was literally evolutionarily chosen Because it was what enabled us to either run fast enough or be strong enough to fight off the bears and the tigers and the warring tribes who were trying to, take our land. They were not evolutionarily selected so that we could have a heart attack when someone stole our parking spot. Or to feel like that job was life or death. Or that grade was life or death. Or getting this person was life or death. Or the promotion was life or death. Or the title or the money. But we literally respond to the world in the stress response like that. Oh my God, I've got a report I have to give tomorrow, a presentation I have to give. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And you say, okay, well, what is it? Well, I'm afraid I'm going to stand up and I'm going to make a fool of myself. Okay, great. Imagine you stand up, you make a fool of yourself. Just accept it. Because of course what you know is saying, no, don't worry, that doesn't work for anxiety. So go the other way. Fine, you stand up, you make an absolute fool of yourself. But okay, you forget to put on your pants that day also. Right? I mean, how many of us have had that nightmare? Then what? Okay, so then the 10, 12, 15, 20 people sitting around that table think you are a fool. Okay. Then what? Then you walk out of that office building. And then what? Well, then you feel badly for a little while. And then you know what? You get a new job. And life goes on. And you've got a great story to tell your kids when they are worried about something to happen in their life. Great story about the day Dad forgot to put on his pants. Stood up and made a fool of himself. So take whatever it is that is causing anxiety in that moment. And imagine it happens. Take it to its worst case scenario. And keep asking yourself, all right, then what? Because it could even go worse. Maybe you don't get another job. All right. Maybe you're homeless. I mean, let's go worst case scenario, absolute worst case scenario. Then you're homeless. Then what? Then you have no food. Okay, then you starve to death. Okay, right? I mean, there's probably no worst case scenario from I'm afraid to give a presentation to then I starve to death, homeless on the street, right? I mean, there's nowhere else you can go. Okay, so you starve to death. Well, you've got to die in some way. You've got to die someday anyway. Even if you succeed in the presentation, they love you, they think you're the smartest guy in the world. You're still going to die. So the absolute craziest worst case scenario of that which you're anxious about brings you to the pretty much exact same end as your best case scenario. In either case, you die. So at least give yourself the best chance to live in peace while you're here. The worst case scenario of everything we're anxious about is, and then I die. Okay, well, you're going to die. So just accept that. And then we work through the rest of the anxiety, either situation by situation, or in general, depending on the type and the depth and whatnot. But use these as opportunities. Don't resign yourself to a fate of being anxious or depressed. It was not what you were born for. Wonderful. Have a beautiful rest of your evening, everyone. And I will see you tomorrow.